Welcome. You're listening to the Propaganda Report. I'm Brad Binkley here with Garland Favorito. Monica had a scheduling emergency last minute and she apologizes. She's not going to be able to join us today, but the show must go on with such an turn off my echo there. Show must go on with such an important issue. Garland, how's it going? What's the latest?
All right. Well, Brad, let's see. I don't know where to start. We probably the latest is we filed a motion last week to basically reinitiate the discovery process, resume discovery, and go forward with the inspection. So we're working on a plan. We're going to resubmit that with the last set of changes that the judge instructed us to make. And we're hoping to go forward. There's a chance that we might be able to go forward even without another hearing. So we're going to keep pressing the issue and until we get that inspection. So that's kind of what we're doing on that front. And then
now, the inspection is this would be an extension of that previous one that you did where you guys found the discrepancies and you want to see a larger batch of the ballots. Is that what you're?
Well, yeah. So let's back up. Wow. Yeah. There's so much stuff that's gone down. So the judge originally gave us the ballot images, but he hasn't given us the physical ballots yet. He has ordered to unseal them. So that's good. So what the physical ballot images, they can tell us how the audit, how they map up with the audit. So, we need these 600 DPI scanned images out of the inspection to really make sure that certain ones may or may not be counterfeit and to identify that number. But from this ballot images that he gave us back in, I think it was April or May, I think it was April, we can learn a lot of information about how the audit was conducted and how legitimate that audit was. And that was the audit that Secretary of State conducted back in November statewide. And what we found back in Fulton County then, and that's what our press release and our press conference from last Tuesday, a week ago, we found that the error rate was 60% in the audit. So that's 60, not 0.6 or 6%, but 60. If you compare batch by batch and you compare the totals of for Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and total presidential votes, 60% of the batches don't add up to what was reported to by the Secretary of State and to the Secretary of State from Fulton County. Then we found the falsified tally sheets where they had 850 to nothing Biden votes, which was, as we found, I can't remember if it was 7 batches, I think, 100 to nothing for Biden, 100 to nothing for Biden. We found a 150 to nothing for Biden, 200 to nothing for Biden. But when we looked at the images for those batches, they didn't add up anywhere near that. Instead of 850 to nothing for Biden, it was 550 for Biden, 140 for Trump, and 43 for Jorgensen. So it just didn't add up. Then we found 4,000 duplicates. Now that's more like 6,000. We found more. These are ballots that were duplicate reported in the audit. So all of that we were able to find just from these low resolution ballot images that we have, because we could compare those to the audit results. And that raises the question, how did they use this audit to verify the certified Dominion results when the audit's got a 60% error rate, it has falsified tally sheets, and it's got 4,000 duplicate votes in it? You know, how is that possible? You know, I think 3,390 were for Biden, 865 for Trump, and I forgot what the count was for Jorgensen. I think maybe 40 something. So it just doesn't add up, and they couldn't have used the audit to actually verify the certified election results. So, which raises the whole question about what did they actually do in the audit?
Yeah, and if that were to replicate across the state, then that could potentially affect an outcome. I do want to make a statement up front for the debunkers, because I know your work is the subject of a lot of debunks across the internet, and they never actually debunk what you do. In fact, when you read the debunks, they actually confirm what you confirm, but they debunk other claims that you aren't actually making. They always debunk this idea that false. There has been no widespread election voter fraud discovered. You're not claiming that. You're not making a claim that you've discovered that. You're only claiming to discover what you have discovered. So nobody here is claiming widespread voter fraud. So there can be no debunks on that issue there. I've decided I want to start putting disclaimers out like that before the debunkers come and try to falsely debunk something. Go ahead with the latest updates.
Well, thank you, Binkley, because that's one of the techniques they use. They misquote you, or well, yeah, they make up something that you didn't say and then debunk that. Or
Yeah.
they misquote you and then try to debunk you. There's all sorts of techniques that they use, but those are two of their favorites.
And they confirm your work within the debunk. It's crazy. They say, yes, this did happen, but that was clearly just a mistake and it means nothing. That's kind of how they justify it. And they always bury it at the very bottom of the debunk where nobody actually reads down to.
Well, yeah, so and it was, you're gonna get me going there now. I'm gonna stop. So one of my favorite ones is the AJC. They come out, and actually a lot of the local people, media did this. They said, well, you proved in the press conference that only 200 ballots were duplicately scanned. And they said that, no, I think the words they used was up to 200 ballots. And we said, no, we already have proven that 200 ballots were duplicately scanned, and there's more. So, and that doesn't include the now 6,000, which is 4,000 that were duplicately reported. So they won't address the issue of how the audit was used to verify the certified election results if the audit is riddled with massive errors and fraud. None of the local news media will touch that issue, even though it's a national news story. Even Tucker Carlson picked it up. So, but they won't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Well, I found that Tucker Carlson segment interesting because they did cite your work. They did put your image up on the screen, but they didn't have you on to discuss it. And a lot of the stuff he said was true, but I spotted right away the way he presented it when he kind of emphasized, this is true. This is not a conspiracy. This has absolutely been proven. The absoluteness at which he discussed it and implying that the widespread, he didn't say widespread voter fraud, but he teased to that a little bit, that gave the debunkers the ability to fact check him and not fact check you. So they fact check his more exaggerated just rhetoric that he uses on his show naturally instead of the actual claims. I thought that was a bone they threw them. I wish they could have had you on. And the AJC and other outlets around here, it's just like reading CNN. They just repeat similar things.
Right. And we're really pleased with Tucker's piece. I think in fairness, he wanted to make sure he was trying to protect us, apparently, by not having us on. So we were cool. We were really pleased with the way he did that piece. I mean, I don't think I could have done it better myself. So I'm really, we were happy with that. And of course, America's Voice and OAN have had us on multiple times. So we're really, really thrilled with the coverage. So, and I was going to say something about going back to the local guys, but the PolitiFact check. So the PolitiFact, we haven't had time yet to go do a number on them. But what we spent a lot of time, if that's the one that you're referring to, there was a PolitiFact check on Tucker Carlson. And David Cross spent a lot of time. We wrote them up page after page of here's how you can prove what we were saying is true and what Tucker Carlson was saying is true. And we gave him all that information. I told the guy personally, I said, look, there's no way you can fact check this story unless you are willing to spend a month to do what we did. You can't fact check it any other way. So nevertheless, they called up the Secretary of State. I believe, I haven't even read it yet, but I think they called up Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State said, oh, no, it didn't happen that way. And they said, okay, the Secretary of State said it didn't happen, therefore it didn't happen. This has got to be false. So it ignored all the evidence and that we sent in pages and pages of literally, all kinds of data analysis, really high level stuff that apparently they couldn't understand or interpret. But David very clearly laid it out for them in page after page. Here's how we got to this conclusion, this one, and this one. So
Yeah.
they ignored all that.
Of course, it takes you months and months upon months to do this work. They have a fact check out 10 minutes after Tucker's segment. So you know that the work hasn't been done on their end of it, and they're just repeating this narrative. It really is pretty unbelievable how coordinated the effort is to distract from what the actual issue is and get people thinking that there's that anything associated with the election is widespread, and this shuts down people's brains and gets them to not talk about it, which tells me that you're onto something when they can't ever debunk what you're actually doing. So I will stop rambling about the media lies. I could do that all day.
Yeah, me too. You got me going now. So here's what we're going to do. We, in the next month or two, we are going to prove that there was widespread fraud in Georgia, and we're going to shut them up once and for all. We have the evidence, but we haven't got it assembled and organized in a way that is presentable, like we did in the conference, the press conference a week and a half ago. But once we get that, we're going to present it. We're going to show, it's not just Fulton County. As much as we picked on Fulton County, and they're always the brunt of everything, and they do a lot of stuff wrong. This problem is not isolated to Fulton County. You can pick any of the other major counties around the metro Atlanta area, or in other, even in another major city in Georgia. You're going to find the similar types of problems that we found, and we just can't organize the data and get it out fast enough. So, but we're going to eventually be able to prove that, in fact, there was massive, widespread errors, and I think that we can conclude the fraud existed in more than one county. So that would be widespread, I guess, depending upon your definition.
Right. There's no definition they give you that. They don't give you a definition of that, so they can claim that anything is that. And I think the way that I've been thinking about it is just taking it case by case, and you don't have to go any bigger than you've already discovered. And that's what you've been really good at doing, is just sticking to what you have, the evidence you have, and putting the evidence you have out there that they cannot disprove. And I don't think you can lose that way. I think when you continue that way, then you win. And I think that even communicating with them in a way where you agree with them from the start, where it's, you know what, there has not been widespread fraud discovered yet. And we do agree that there were discrepancies discovered at this count when we looked at the ballot images, just like you said, AJC, just like you said, PolitiFact, just like you said, Snopes, at the bottom of your articles. We agree on all of this, and we're just going to go ahead and see how far this extends. And they can't disagree with you if you start from that place. But have you noticed, has there been an increase in, I would say, attacks or pressure on you from outside sources?
No, not really, Binkley. We've been kind of under the radar. And I think the reason is that nobody can dispute that we are nonpartisan. That's the first thing. They argued that point with the cyber ninjas out in Arizona and some of the folks out there. But bottom line is they conducted a really good examination out there. So they haven't been able to use that argument. So that hurts their case a little bit. And because we just present the facts, and because there's so many folks on our lawsuit, it's a bunch of citizens, it's not just me. So they're having trouble attacking us. And also our case is doing extremely well in court. So we're basically winning something every time we go in. I don't know. We haven't really been on their radar. We're not perceived as political as maybe some of the other things that are going on around the country and even around the state. So far, so good.
Fantastic.
That'll change.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully they won't be able to go after you. And I mean, they haven't seemed to. They just go after the straw man. Is there any? We've talked a little bit about I know you had a hearing last week with the judge. Is there any specific new details, bombshells that came out of that? I know you were granted access again. What exactly are you going to be able to do moving forward from what happened last week in court? What actions are you guys going to be able to take?
Well, technically, we weren't actually in court last week. We did file a motion or two, but we haven't been back to court. Our motion was just to continue with the inspection, reinitiate it, resume the inspection, resume the discovery. So we are basically, I think there's a chance we can just go forward with even without another hearing. But I'm not even sure when we'll be back in court just yet. It would probably be in August if we are. So we're moving forward. But to answer your question, basically, what we can do right now, because we got these ballot images, there is a ton of analysis work that we can do. And there's a lot of excitement in our folks because of the press conference that we held was so successful. And the national news picked up. We just completely bypassed the local news media. They could not shut us down. We had, America's Voice there live. They did an interview before and after the press conference. OAN covered it. We had, we went to Fox News. I did like 13 interviews in 2 days over that press conference. So it's all out there, and they can't really hold us down much longer. They keep saying that they being the local news media, that there's no evidence of fraud. Right now, well, we've had the evidence since November 16th when we had the 4 sworn affidavits from the senior poll managers. So the evidence has existed, and then we doubled down on it, last week, and that just went viral. Even Trump tweeted it like 3 times. Or whatever he's using now. I'm not sure if he's using Twitter anymore, but so we can do so much more with these ballot images. So that's all the excitement. In fact, our meeting today was all about, how we're going to do, which counties are we going to attack next, what evidence, who's going to organize it, who's going to get the ballot records, who's going to do the analysis. We're going to need to have a training video of how to do it for all the counties. So we're going to be wrapped up in that.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're going to a training video so people who want to participate in other counties to ease y'all's load, because it takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of money. I'm sure it's expensive because they're putting the burden on you. I saw something you tweeted about the financial aspect of it and everything being on the plaintiffs. So
right.
Yeah, so donate, guys. Donate to Garland. We'll hit that later on, but definitely VoterGA. They need all the help they can get right now because they're making progress and they're trying to make it as hard for you guys as possible. This video is online, right? Is there a specific YouTube page people can go to see your press conference who haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, so the press conference itself is up on VoterGA.org. It's on the event tab. And that's got the press conference up there, and we have pretty much. We also have the press releases on the VoterGA.org press release tab, so you can get the written version, and you can get the press conference itself. And then, if you want the 2-minute version, on the press. If you want a 2-minute video that says what happened on the press release. This is exactly what.
That's why I'm popping that up right there. Yeah.
You need a 1-minute explainer video. You're absolutely right. BS Man is absolutely right. So what we've got. So here's what we did. He's exactly right. So what we did was, this is another volunteer, a lady named Liza Miller came forward, and she is doing a 2-minute video of what we accomplish each week. And her video is posted on the press release tab. It's a 2-minute video. Click on that. Liza is a former Miss University of Georgia, and right. She does a great job and does it better. The thing that amazes me about her is that she can look straight in the camera and say the whole thing, and I can't do that. I can't talk for 3 minutes without notes, but she just explains it all just like a newscaster would in 2 minutes. And here's what we did this past week. So that's up there on the press release tab. You can click on that. And I know that BS Man is going to be all over that since that's exactly what he wanted. Now, it was 2 minutes. It wasn't 1 minute. We couldn't get it in 1 minute. We had to use 2. But I think that'll make him really happy.
Well, condensing that down to 2 minutes is amazing, really. I find myself, when friends of mine ask about it, when I try to explain it, I have it in my head, and I understand it. But when I go to explain it to them, I'm like, I don't know if I'm getting through the message to you as easily as I could, because it is a complicated, it is a challenging issue, and I think that that's part of the obstacles that they put in your way. They want to make it as challenging and as difficult to explain as possible. And when you have people like Raffensperger, who are making the headlines every day as a Republican in the AJC, and then pretending to fight, for the voting rights and to stop voter fraud, in the background, he's really covering up what's going on, covering up the voter fraud. It makes it hard because people see those headlines flash on the AJC, and you have to get over that barrier. And I have been thinking about that communication strategy of getting around those trigger words, those I call them linguistic landmines. As soon as you hit one, it shuts people's brains down because the conclusion pops into their head.
Right. Yeah. That's what we're gonna try to do, is we're gonna try to circumvent the local news media. The main problems we have is just with the Metro Atlanta news organizations. There's just a couple, three of them, and they just are not willing to cover the story truthfully and honestly. So, but once you circumvent those and go to other areas of the state and go out nationally, then we get the story out that way, and eventually it forces them to improve their coverage a little bit.
Do you know about this symposium that Mike Lindell apparently stopped? At least this is what the news is reporting. The news is reporting that Mike Lindell stopped his ads on Fox News because they refused to put up an ad about his symposium on, of course, they say widespread voter fraud. I found nowhere where Mike Lindell said that phrase, but because of he's going to be doing a presentation online, presenting some evidence, I presume. Are you involved in this? Do you know anything about it?
No, I'm not involved. I was involved in the Absolute Proof video, although he hasn't published our segment yet, but he still might do that. I'm not involved directly in knowing what he's doing. I think that's coming up. I believe it's in South Dakota in August the 10th or something like that. I can't remember exactly when that is, but it's coming up in mid-August or early August. So I don't know that exactly what he's doing, but I understand it's going to be an extension of the foreign interference into the elections that occurred in November.
And I think that, Fox News can do whatever they want advertising wise, but I assume that he probably pays them pretty well for advertising spot. I doubt he gyps them. The fact that they will not put that stuff up there, to me, it is kind of an indication that they aren't always willing to expose the full extent of it. Maybe they do put a little bit out there, but the whole idea of controlled opposition is a real thing, I think, to circumvent that attention to what is acceptable to be revealed while distracting away from the actual nitty-gritty that you guys are revealing.
Yeah, that's really sad to think that they would, not post that from their top advertiser. Really, Mike Lindell is their top advertiser in Fox News. So he has gotten so many commercials. If you ever watch that show, sometimes I watch Fox News and MSNBC to see what.
I do that too.
But yeah, different sides. It's like you're in two different worlds if you watch those two. But
it really is.
The guy's he's bought more ads on Fox News than anybody in Fox News history, and he's there. That's really sad to know that they would do that. But
he's one of the only ones that didn't bail on them, while the other advertisers ran from the pressure. Another thing that I think is interesting to do is, if I don't necessarily have time to watch all of the shows and I want to see what the talking points are, I'll just go through the CNN YouTube page, and they have the different shows. They have Anderson Cooper. They have what's his name, Don Lemon, and they have the meathead Chris Cuomo. And I just click through with no audio, and I look at the little lower third tags, this little sayings, and they all say the exact same thing for every show. It's just like one or two word different, but they all have the same little propaganda slogan down at the bottom. And there's your talking point. You don't even have to watch all of them.
Yeah, there was a video out, and I can't remember. It's been years ago, but they did about 30 shows over a period of a week or so, and they were all making the same talking point. It's like they all got their talking point from the same place, and you see the exact same phrase on. It was probably at least 2 dozen shows.
It really, I've seen this tweet going around that has, this is about the COVID thing, but it has a bunch of different accounts tweeting the exact same thing. And yeah, they do that all the time. I get these scripted talking points sent to me from these activist groups like Indivisible that I join in, and they say, here, this is what you tweet out. And then they say you can personalize it like this, but then they tell you how to personalize it. They give you like an A/B option on personalization. And then the next day I'll go and I'll copy and paste that little hashtag they send, and I'll just see a flood of exact same messages coming up every single time. It's a tactic they use. They try to flood the social media airwaves with the talking points, and they come from the top. They all come from the top, and they try to make it appear like they come from the bottom. Let's get to some of these questions here. This is, do you think Raffensperger is complicit in the fraud, or is he just trying to make it go away?
Well, here's what I can tell you just from actual facts. I mean, that's kind of a subjective opinion, but here's what I can tell you. Actual facts are that I met with Brad Raffensperger and another gentleman who's, he's pretty high in Republican committees. And we explained to Brad the machines that he should buy and look at and the ones that he needs to avoid. This was before he was Secretary of State, before he had even won the Republican primary. We knew that he was a candidate. So we try to get to these folks really early. And they gave him a list of, here's some good ones, here's some bad ones. And we had good and bad from each vendor so that it was not, we're not being, partisan to one vendor, because each vendor had a good machine, each vendor had a bad one. Well, we gave that to him. He took copious notes, was appreciated it. We had a nice meeting just before lunch one day. And he basically ignored it and purchased the voting machines that accumulate votes in QR codes that you can't verify. And that's exactly what we warned him against very clearly. So he knew that that was the wrong thing to do and did it anyway.
Yeah.
So you can kind of extrapolate from there to get your answer to that question. But those are facts. He would not deny that.
My opinion on him is that he's kind of a secret lefty. I know he's got family members who have kind of hidden Twitter accounts that I located, and for the past 4 years has done nothing but just bash anything associated with Trump, completely bash it. He's not from Johns Creek, where he moved from to come be the Secretary of State. He's actually from Canada, and his background story is a little bit off when you look into it. He looks like he's been placed, in my opinion. But I believe we have somebody here who might be kind of an activist for the other side here, because I see that we have Teresa is saying there was no widespread voter fraud. And I think she might have missed that we made that announcement early on in the show. We're not claiming that there is widespread voter fraud. We're claiming what has been discovered that could potentially lead to that. So no debunking there. And I see that some other comments coming from, I don't know what, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw a few things out there just to, it's very careful the way they say that. There's no widespread voter fraud. So there is widespread evidence of voter fraud. You can go into the sworn affidavit of the trucker who trucked in the ballots in Pennsylvania. You can go over to Arizona and find that they added 10,000 people to the rolls who voted after the election. They were marked as voted. You can go with the 74,000 ballots that they found that they had that they never sent out. All of those, there's no widespread fraud. There's certainly widespread evidence of fraud. Yes. So, but clearly they dropped the word evidence out to make sure that statement is still pretty much true. So they've given up on the evidence thing. That's now removed from.
Yeah, they leave that out. And Teresa here is definitely here pumping the talking points. Election was free and fair. The first ever free and fair election in the history of mankind happened this time. And I'm guessing from her point of view, right after the most fraudulent one ever in 2016. This is a talking point bot right here. It's a person, but repeating something that they've been told from their activist group, probably Indivisible, if I had to guess. Yeah. And what I'm seeing here, and this is the same type of attacks made in the media, is she's not actually hitting any information. She's just kind of subverting the conversation in the chats and getting people to argue back and forth about voter fraud, widespread voter fraud, no widespread voter fraud,
with a subjective opinion. So let's just go. Let's drop the subjective opinion. We'll get down to the actual facts. What is the evidence of voter fraud in Georgia for the 2020 November election? Well, specifically, we have 4 sworn affidavits filed on November the 16th from senior poll managers who claim that they handled counterfeit ballots in the hand count audit that was conducted on November 14th and 15th in Fulton County. So that is what we call prima facie probable cause evidence that justifies a trial or a hearing. And that's why we're still alive. We're still alive because those four affidavits, and which were corroborated by 2 other affidavits, that is actual legal evidence that justifies probable cause. On top of that, you add the State Farm Arena video, which, if you're familiar with Georgia election law, you can find probably 4 different violations of Georgia election transparency law in that video. And you can even see them scanning ballots multiple times without any problem with the scanner. No reject there, no issue with the scanner. They kept doing that. So that's the evidence that is out there, and it's been out there since November 16th. State Farm Arena video came out December 3rd or 4th. So that evidence has existed in Georgia. And then we tripled down on that evidence last week with actual proven falsified tally sheets from Fulton County showing 850 votes for Joe Biden, 0 for Trump. Those 7 batches were totally false. They were made up. The ballot images didn't match it. Anyone who's watching can verify that what I'm saying is true if they want to take the time to do that instead of repeating Democrat talking points, or maybe it's media talking points. I'm not even sure. Quite honestly, we're not getting that much pushback from Democrats here because, most of them are for election transparency in Georgia.
Yeah. It's interesting that the way that the media exploits people's lack of understanding of how the election process usually works. I know I was completely unfamiliar with it until this past couple of years, and what I've learned from you and investigating the process a little bit. When you don't have an understanding of it and facts come out that are showing evidence, then the other side can just say, or the media can just say, no, that's not true. This is bogus. And I think that knowledge, helping people with that knowledge of here's how it works. This is how it works. And this is why it is not working correctly. This is why there was a problem.
Yeah. And BS Man just put a great comment on here in the chat. And he says, I can't believe how opaque the U.S. elections are. That's absolutely right. Again, he's 2 for 2 today.
Yeah.
So the transparency should be the number one priority. Absolutely right. That's what's wrong is there's no transparency, and therefore you can't prove anything, and nobody at the official level is willing to open the doors and show us and prove that whoever won. And that's the most fundamental problem that's wrong today. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, you want transparency. Most of the Democrats and Republicans I know here in Georgia, and I've known, we've had hundreds, if not thousands of both in our organization. They all want election transparency. Then we can argue about the political issues, but the first thing we want is transparent elections, because regardless of whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you want to know that your side lost legitimately or they won legitimately. And that's why we're not getting so much heat, because that's what we're standing for.
Yeah, they are making the push to federalize it with that For the People Act, basically. Stacey Abrams and them pushing it. There's a question here. I'm not familiar with. What is Raffensperger saying? The state needs to take over Fulton County elections?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, that would allow the state to cover up the problems that they have. That's a good question. to date, what we have been showing was that Fulton County had issues with what we believe to be counterfeit ballots injected into the count and inappropriate scanning, duplicate of ballots, and election transparency issues. Those were all at Fulton County. But last week, we showed that the audit was flawed, and we showed that it had major audit massive error rates, and we showed that duplicates were in the count and that duplicates were in the report. So what that brings the Secretary of State's office into play as being culpable for a lot of the audit problems and what we call the fraud that occurred on November 14th and 15th, when they supposedly were to conduct a full hand count audit and report the results accurately. That didn't happen. So now the Secretary of State is implicated. And if he comes in and tries to take over Fulton County, it's better off he can try to cover that up. Well, we don't want that. We don't want Secretary of State taking over Fulton County. We want both the Secretary of State and Fulton County to be held accountable for whatever they did. That's the Democrats and the Republicans both need to be held accountable for the wrongdoing. And that's what nonpartisan election integrity is all about.
Yeah. See, people try to paint you as being on the right, which when I first met you, when we were on WSB, you were talking about the John Ossoff election in 2017. And you believe that John Ossoff actually, I believe it was Karen Handel she went up against. You believe that he had actually won because of a problem. You're the most unbiased person that I've ever met when it comes to the election stuff. And you just want to get to the truth. You just want election integrity. And there's no doubt about that. Is Cobb County calling for another audit? I say there's a question I saw pop up about that.
Well, Cobb County's got a ton of problems. I didn't know if the head of the Board of Elections is calling for an audit. That's great to know, but that's news to me. Cobb's got a lot of problems. I keep saying that Fulton County is not alone. There are other counties that have a lot of issues like Fulton. Cobb is certainly one of them. They've got a lot of issues, and several of the Metro Atlanta counties do. And we just can't work fast enough with enough volunteers to get to the bottom of it all. But it all needs to be exposed. And when it's all exposed, I don't think anybody is going to be able to argue that there's no widespread fraud and errors in Georgia.
Is there a path for removal? You had teased something like that a few weeks back. If this evidence is found to where it would have changed the outcome, what happens next?
I think it's too early to say, Binkley, because there's such a long way to go. A presidential race requires 3 states to find that. We've still got questions around the U.S. Senate race here. Like you said, I feel, and I never could prove it, but I believe that Ossoff beat Karen Handel back in the 6th district race in 2017. Couldn't prove that, but the machines had some very suspicious results. But this time, it appears that the situation might be reversed. Maybe Ossoff should not have been in a runoff. I don't know where all that's going to go. That one of the lawsuits that was questioning that was dismissed, and they're going to appeal. So that was on the Senate challenge, and it's hard to say where it would go. But there are legal mechanisms, federal legal mechanisms to remove folks that were elected improperly. Right.
Do you know anything? I know you're focused here as a BS man. Another interesting question about the comment about the Arizona, about the claim that there's 74K votes in Arizona that were legit.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a ridiculous claim. So what the claim is, they had 74,000 votes that they sent out, mail-in votes. That they received, for which they did not send out ballots. The state of Arizona is attempting to claim that, those were in-person votes. And that the in-person votes are mixed in with the mail-in votes, and they show that that's an in-person coming in. I personally don't believe that. I think it's garbage, but that's the argument that they're attempting to use to justify that why those votes are supposedly legitimate. I don't believe it. If that would be a really stupid programming error to do that, and I can say that because I spent 40 years in the information technology business, and I did computer programming for over a decade. And that would be a really stupid. So just from my professional opinion as an IT guy, I don't buy that as an excuse.
That sounds kind of similar to some of the rebukes to what you guys have discovered are, where they're saying, well, the ballots came over from the soldiers overseas and they were kind of messed up. So, the woman in the video who's rescanning all of them, or they had to refill them in with computers, and they have all these excuses that they're providing that seem plausible if you don't understand how it works, how the process works, right. Which makes me think of it's a CIA deception maxim thing where they talk about providing plausible reasons to explain something to distract away from the actual explanation of what's going on.
Well, exactly. And we've seen that over and over again, probably 100 times out of the Secretary of State's office.
Yeah. So do you have a question here about paper ballots? Would you approve of a paper ballot as the best way to have an election? I guess straight up paper ballots.
Well, yeah, we've always been in favor of hand-marked paper ballots, but we're technology neutral. As long as the votes can be verified, audited, recounted, and they're transparent. That's the 4 criteria. How you achieve that is up to you, but we don't have any of that right now in those 4 major things. But one of the easiest ways to do that is as a paper ballot, hand-marked paper ballot. That would have saved Georgia hundreds of millions of dollars if we advocated for that before they bought these ballot marking devices. Ballot marking devices are great for the disabled or folks who need those, but not if they're too insecure to run an entire election off of them. And this is the point that we made back in when they passed House Bill 316 back in 2019 or whenever that was. I think it was 2019. So so they ended up ignoring us and spending hundreds of millions of dollars that they didn't need to spend, and they executed that with a 20-year bond for shelf life system that it's only 10 years. So this taxpayers are going to be paying for that system 10 years after its useful life is over. It was extremely ridiculous to do that, particularly when all of the security experts were saying that actually a hand-marked paper ballot system is more secure than the ballot marking device system. And you can even add ballot on demand printing at the precincts to basically make it easier to maintain for the elections officials.
Yeah, and I think the more localized it stays, the more that would work. And they're trying to push it to be more federalized, which makes it harder and harder to implement a system like that, in my opinion. People in the chats, the troll who's in there, Teresa or whatever her name is, she is repeating activist talking points that I literally have in my email right now. I mean, verbatim. She's not thinking for herself. She is here to disrupt. So engaging her is only going to fuel her and continue for her to be here. Just ignore her. They feed off of getting the response, off of getting their topics to be the subject of what we're talking about, because they play the whole truth sandwich thing that Brian Stelter pushes on his show all the time, except they play the opposite of it, where they want you to repeat the BS claims they're making because it puts it in people's minds and it makes it about that and not about the actual content. So just ignore her and put your legitimate questions in the chats. She is a troll. She is not to be reasoned with. I pray for her and I hope that she's okay from this brainwashed mind control state that she's in, because the people who are controlling her do not give a rip about her. They are making money off of her back, and she will not rise politically. She will not become a star in her indivisible group. She will be sad and alone unless she opens her eyes and realizes she's being manipulated. Don't even engage her anymore. My apologies, Garland.
Well, a couple of things. I'm happy to answer any question that she has if she puts her question in the chat, right? All I'm seeing is opinions.
Yeah, she's not
But
putting any questions.
but I have a lot of friends in Indivisible Group who are all in favor of election transparency. So she might find that really strange. But there are a lot of commonality there. In fact, I actually worked with the Indivisible Group for years, and we were trying to hold Republican leadership accountable, and they were all over election integrity issues, and they were right. And I think a lot of them felt that they got cheated out of, and I believe that they were correct. So again, I have a lot of friends who are in Indivisible, and they are for election transparency. So don't want to criticize the entire group just because we have one person that might be out there.
That's a good point.
But
I should my criticisms are targeted at the people who control it from the top down. The people who join it, I believe, have a good heart in mind, and they are just taking instructions for what they're led to believe is a noble cause. Question those leaders just like you would question any leaders would be what I would suggest. Question here: do you think a routine forensic audit should happen after every election?
Yes, I think that's a great question, and it can be done pretty easily. You can take let's take the server, which everybody thinks it is the most scary thing. All you have to do is get an image copy of the server, take a sealed media device to your county elections official. They can run an image copy in a half an hour while they go on lunch or do anything else. Come back, get it, seal it up for you, and take it, and you can go and send it to whoever you want for a forensic exam. So that can be done for the servers, and you can also, of course, if the ballots were public image, were public record, then you could do what we're doing and having to sue for now. So we did. Those are the two things that need to happen. We got the ballot images transparent now. They're basically available or should be available from now future elections, and so we're 1/3 of the way there.
All right. Have you commented on this earlier, but I don't know about the possibility of tracing them back, the duplicate ballots back to who they were connected to?
No, we can't trace them back to individuals. Anything to do with the individuals who file the ballots are outside the scope of our lawsuit. But there are other people who are investigating that. I think Mark Davis and Matt Brainard have some eligibility issues that they're looking into.
All right. So what do you need moving forward? What help can people offer?
Okay, yeah, great. Well, thanks, Brad. And by the way, on this question, yes, it is possible to trace the time that they were counted, or at least the time that they were scanned. So, yeah, well, basically, it's always the reason that we're alive is because of patriots out there, like those who watch the propaganda report, and they keep us alive with small donations from $10 to $100, or most of our donations, and that's up at VoterGA.org, the donate tab, and we basically we live off of those, and that's why we've been successful. That's what's gotten us so far. All the money goes to lawyers and inspection fees, and almost all of it. We have a little bit of admin, so that's what keeps us going, and that's what enables us to tell the truth, because we don't have any big money that comes with strings attached. So we can just come up and say, here's what it is. And little money doesn't have strings attached. So
yeah, so send the donations in. It goes for a good cause. Thank you for all you're doing. Definitely. Jack Bauer. I love that screen name there. Garland, have Chairman Rob Pitts called to thank you about finding the flaws? I highly doubt it, but I'll let you take that one away.
No, he hasn't called yet, but it's funny. I do. We were talking about this on the last show, and we were kind of kidding. I do agree with him that we should either shut up or put up. I think that he was right to say that, and if he wanted more evidence, he got it, and certainly he's kind of shut up after that, and after we put up. But I mean, I've actually known him for a long time, and we actually worked together on a project indirectly to remove the Georgia 400 toll. So he was
Oh,
just
thank you
known
for
that.
that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
so that was one of our best successes, and Rob Pitts was instrumental in setting that up, the law up, so that toll could be removed. So I kind of have a good history with him, but I don't think that Rob understood how bad it was. In fairness to him, I don't think he knew what was going on. Now I might be totally wrong. They said that there's no such thing as accidents, and incompetence, and mostly it's other stuff. But in fairness, I'm not sure that he actually knew everything that was going on. That maybe they kept it from him. So, but there's a lot of problems there, and but he has not called me to thank me yet.
Well, don't hold your breath on that one. Was it illegal for Raffensperger to certify an election with an error rate of 60% in the audit?
Wow, that's a great question. So the first thing is he's going to claim that he didn't know that it was 60%. So we found that out. He had the evidence. He could have known. Anybody in the Secretary of State's office could have looked at those images and said, wow, this error rate's 60%. He didn't. So did they really not know, or did they cover that up? That's a question that we'll probably not answer. Same thing with the falsified tally sheets. Did he not know that there were falsified tally sheets, or did he cover it up?
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't know about the duplicate ballots, but it's a really good question, Matt. So I don't know that I can have a concrete answer.
What kind of consequences are there for that? Do you know if this was found and he was tried in court? Do you know what kind of punishment there would be?
Well, right now we're just interested in the civil case. So
Yeah.
we're trying to establish the fact that the results are not correct. And then, criminally, you can decide who's held accountable from that. But we're just trying to get through the civil aspect. And like BS Man was saying earlier, we're just being, we're getting opposition tooth and nail from every side because the process is not transparent. It's totally opaque. And that's what's wrong. We shouldn't have to be fighting for 6 months, to find out what actually happened.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Ismkant here is to show that you are in fact over the target, that having trolls show up more and more in these chats. I mean, that's evidence right there. So yeah, I don't know what a money bomb is exactly, but I have a pretty good idea. Garland's going to be under attack. There's no doubt about it. Every time it gets that mainstream news, it's going to be trending on Twitter, but it's going to be trending in kind of a convoluted way that tries to take away from the truth of it. So it's a great cause to support in whatever way you can, whether it's just sharing the videos, whether it's donating a few bucks here and there, telling your friends about it, sharing that 2-minute explainer video that you have. Anything you can do to get the word out is definitely helpful.
Amen. Sharing and passing the information along is so helpful to spread the word. If you can't make a donation, like Binkley's saying, wow, just spread it to 10 of your friends or even 100. That is so important to us because that puts us in front of another 10 to 100 people. And, maybe one of those might make a donation and somebody else can afford to. So that's really, really helpful to us, and we appreciate it. I know a lot of folks out there have been doing that, and that's helped us so much. And in fact, it all started here, because of your podcast and Monica's podcast. I've got like 5 other podcasts who are, helping.
You're everywhere, man.
So it's like it all started with you. You and Monica.
Well, Monica, you've known Monica for a long time, and she used to be a guest on the WSB show. And like I said, nobody is as unbiased as you are. You don't have a political agenda. You never have. A great question here by Shadowban Warrior. Is it legal to keep the elections USBs in your back pocket? I think there was a video or something we're showing, looked like somebody put a USB in their back pocket.
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember that video, and I think that it's not legal. I don't believe it's legal. I have to check the code, but I can tell you that hiding ballot boxes under skirted tables are both violations of Georgia transparency law. So hiding a USB with election information on it, I think would be a violation, as long as you knew that there was election information on that USB.
Is there a way for people to volunteer to look at the ballots with you guys?
Yes, absolutely. You can email me at garlandf@voterga.org, garlandf@voterga.org, or you can just kind of sign up on the VoterGA page, and we'll probably be trying to get that up to speed in the next couple of days. That's another way to do it. We're a little bit slower on the VoterGA page, the Contact Us page.
So I'm not sure. I haven't seen this. Judge Amiro Friday releasing the ballots for reviewing.
Yeah, that it wasn't this week. That was a video of him ordering that to be unsealed from April 13th, I believe. That video is still valid. He ordered them to be unsealed. Nothing has happened to change that. We're just, because of the sovereign immunity issues, there's been some delays in trying to work out who's the real defendant that should be sued. But the order to unseal the ballot still stands. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, I think we have a vote here to get you on Mount Rushmore. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, I want to replace Abraham Lincoln.
Oh yeah,
No.
there you go. Yeah, that's nice. So you look good in that hat, maybe.
Yeah, no, he committed a little bit too many constitutional violations for my taste. So.
You know, a lot of people don't realize that he did violate the Constitution quite a bit.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
I had a friend of mine ask you if he wanted me to ask you. I told him that probably not, if I had to guess. But did you and a bunch of other election audit people get shadow banned on Twitter at the exact same time? That was a rumor going around.
There was a legitimate identity issue that I had with Twitter, and they did. I don't want to say they blocked me, but they kind of. I think they were still displaying the information, but I think they had a warning or something on it. But it was, as far as I could tell, legitimate. Once I verified my authenticity, it went back to normal. So in fairness, I'm going to give Jack Dorsey a slide on that one. So I think we're okay. I've been kind of amazed that we haven't been hit too hard by Twitter or Facebook. We've had one post, I think, they didn't like when we posted something about Ashley Babbitt. And other than that we've been kind of under their radar. The problem with them that they can't really do a whole lot with us, because everything that we're showing are they're court documents and court cases and legal briefs and all this stuff. So it's hard to say that we are some kind of nutty group that's floating conspiracy theories when we're putting out legal briefs and court hearing videos and everything that actually went down. Oh, great question.
See, I didn't know about the local event over the 4th of July. This is a great question. So what do you got coming up locally?
Yeah, so we had a great 4th of July at Woodstock Festival. We announced that we were supporting the audit, and we are out there. We had a parade. The people were amazing, and we had a booth at the festival. It was one of the highest traffic booths. Everybody's interested in that audit. They all know that something's wrong with the elections results. So yes, we do have an event coming up. I'm so glad you made. It's on the VoterGA.org event tab, and it's going to be Sunday, August the 15th at the Brimstone Tavern. This is not too far from you. It's in Alpharetta, Binkley. And we're going to feature Aviva and the Flying Penguins. She's got her whole band back together.
That's awesome.
It's not just Aviva, and she's going to do a couple sets, a Patriot set and a dance set, and we're going to have food. It's a $25 minimum donation we're requesting, and we can take over 100 people, so it would be great to see everyone come out. I'll be there, and we will. I'm not sure what we're going to do, but we don't even have the registration page up yet. But but it will be on VoterGA.org events tab, and that event is out there right now. The information is on the events tab. So I'm so glad that y'all mentioned that, because I almost completely forgot to mention it.
I know from firsthand experience that Garland can cut a rug. Also, the man knows how to dance.
Really? How did you know that from firsthand experience?
Because at Neighbors Feed and Seed, I witnessed it.
Oh, we were just we were kind of messing around with Aviva there.
Yeah. It's a good time, man. It was fun. I've been to a couple of the events, and it was a lot of fun. I want to put this comment up real quick. We're gonna get out of here in a minute, but see, this is from our troll here, and she's saying, "See, the video was from months ago." She was correct, and I find it interesting that you are the one who said that. You, the person who she's attacking, are the one who just said that the video was old. So, proving your credibility.
The video is still true.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed. And the reason that we put that out was because of the false report that came out of the AJC saying that our case was dismissed, which was a complete lie. Not one word of our counts have been dismissed. It was a total fabrication, but I'm sure she might have bought into it. In fact, we even have a fact check out there for the AJC and also for GPB. So if you go to VoterGA.org news tab, we have false media alert, and it'll show you the false articles that we've gotten. We use the exact quotes, and we tell you what the truth is, and we even reference into the documents or the court orders to prove that the local news media lied about us. So that's all up on VoterGA. We had one public broadcasting article that we found 19 false statements in, ranging from mostly false to pants on fire lying, all in one single article. It was an in-depth article, obviously, 19 errors. So, but that video is true today. The judge has unsealed the ballots. Nothing has changed. It is factually correct, and it stands as truth today, regardless of whether it was 1 or 2 months old or not.
Yeah,
that's the state of affairs that we are at right now. The judge has unsealed those ballots, and we're looking to inspect them, and so that everyone can know the truth, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican.
Yeah, the implication was that you put it up there now to make it seem as though it was new when you yourself said it was an older video just a moment ago. Evidence is evidence, and if somebody presents a claim to refute it, regardless of how old the evidence is, you just say, here's the evidence. You don't have to reproduce brand new evidence when you already have the evidence there. I'll get one more question in. Are you in contact with Taylor Greene? Looks like she is after Raffensperger on the election and might sue.
I've never had any contact with MTG. I never have met her personally. I knew a couple of people who worked in her campaign back when she was in the 6th district. She was actually originally running for the 6th district and moved to the 14th. We were disappointed about that because she lives in Brookhaven, or used to. So anyway, but no, I've never had any contact with her, or nor have I met her. But it's interesting that we seem to think a lot alike.
Yeah, and she definitely knows how to use publicity stunts to get attention as well. I'm always, depending on how people use that strategy, sometimes I'm okay with it. Sometimes, other times, the big attention-getting public relations stunts can take away, because this whole idea of any attention is good attention. I don't know that I agree with that all the time, but sometimes I would. Garland, is there anything else you wanna throw in before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, some people, talking about attention, we have to. I have to go on the shows in order to raise money to keep us alive. So that's why we do it. So some people might try to say, well, oh, you're just an attention getter. Well, no, we have to survive, and that's how we're doing it. So. That's why we're doing the shows and trying to keep the word out there, and it's working really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your attention getting is presenting evidence. I'm referring to more of the big publicity stunts that are oftentimes controversial lightning rods in the media. I'm all about getting attention for the fact-based stuff and fun, interesting ways that makes people think. Do you have affidavits from these other counties, poll workers? DeKalb, Clayton, Cobb.
We have affidavits from people from all over the state. Whether or not we have poll worker affidavits for all those counties, I would have to double check. But we certainly do have, we have like 100 or more affidavits available for us to use.
Fantastic, Garland. Thank you for updating us again on everything. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show and to bring some truth. And thanks for your hard work that you do. I got to admit, I didn't think it would get this far. I saw the effort that you were putting in. I saw the evidence you brought, and I saw how you kept getting railroaded, but you stuck to it. And by sticking to it, you found a way. And I feel like the time is coming. I feel like more light is being shined on it, and I feel like the floodgates could open up, maybe not immediately, but down the road a little bit.
I do too. I feel like we'll get to the bottom of this by the end of the year. So I'm anxious to find out.
Need a vacation.
I just want to know I need a vacation. I want to know what the truth is so I can go on vacation.
Yeah. So check them out at VoterGA, and that is also your Twitter account if people want to follow you on Twitter. And you have a Facebook page under the same name, right?
VoterGA, and we're also now on Gab and Telegram, VoterGA. So we're happy about that. We got to protect ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. You got to be everywhere. Thank you all for watching. Donate to VoterGA. Help support the cause. If you can't donate, share it. Do what you can. Get the word out. Present the evidence-based presentation. That is what will beat them. Don't engage in those widespread election baiting tricks they try to get you to do. Bring it back down. Here's what has been discovered. It could lead to widespread, but right now, this is what we can prove. Stick to that, and we will beat them. We will beat them with this. Thank you. We will talk to you guys next time.
Thanks, Pinkley. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Garland.